أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic is a very important topic, very close to my heart personally as well, and the topic is going to be screen time, dopamine, and child's brain, our child's brain. So a little bit of background about myself. I'm Farhana Kotalayan. I'm a VOTP core member, and this presentation is done on the platform of VOTP, which is Voice of the People. The whole goal of VOTP is to, make everyone aware regarding, the importance of your voice, and what is more important than knowing what is important for your kids. So let's first go ahead and let's get started with overviewing the objectives. What are we going to achieve out of this session? First, let's figure out what do we mean by screen time, and is it a problem? Is it not a problem in the current day? That's the first question we will try to figure out. The second thing, we're going to understand how dopamine works. Thirdly, we will see, how this dopamine is affecting the emotions and the behavior. And then we will go back to focusing on what are the ill effects of screen time. And most of this is actually related with dopamine. And that's why we are including dopamine in this topic. Then we will go ahead and look at practical tips which we can do. And that's the best part. The best part is we have things which we can do in our hands to create a balance, between screen time and the real world connections. And ultimately, it is to empower ourselves as well as our kids to live a healthier life, to live a life of their full potential, and which is obviously in fulfilling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commandments. All right, so let's go ahead and little bit of introduction of why this topic is so close to me. So subhanallah, I'm a physician by profession. I am a mom of 3 kids, and watching my little kids grow. Now they are older. When they're little, I was really, surprised and amazed, and was surprised to see how much talent and how each kid has. Every one of my kids was very interested in drawing. Another kid was very, very good in socializing and connecting with other kids, making a lot of friends. Under of my kid was very good in making up small poems, and just out of the blue. And and as they grew older and older, COVID hit, 2019, 2020. And before then, we had made a decision not to have screens, too much screens at home. We did not have individual laptops or anything of that sort. But 2020, since the education went online, we kind of were forced to buy and if you could just Jazakallah. And after that, what I started noticing, as a physician, and as a mom of these 3 kids, is them not liking to do other things, and rather spending more and more and more time on the screens. And whenever I keep explaining, not good for you, this is not healthy, impose restrictions on the screen time, and you find them very, very bored, and this was kind of a repeat word: I am bored, I am bored, I am bored. Please type in chat how many people have been facing this issue with the kids. Mommy, I'm bored, what should I do? And even if you give any alternatives, they're not liking it, they're not able to enjoy it. And this became a serious issue. And I've also seen that in some kids, this can go to the level of addiction. And a little bit introduction on what the definition of addiction means. Addiction basically means that they are, caught up in a particular activity, and they're unable to stop it or control it. The control is lost. So that is addiction. And of course, in kids, they do not know what is good for them, what is not good for them. The prefrontal part of the brain, which regulates that, is not there yet. So they will not they really don't know whether what is good or bad. But in elderly people, addiction will also include this particular aspect. That is, they know it's not good for them or it is hurting them. But despite that, they will be compelled to continue in that. They lose that control. So that is addiction. So yeah, so just by raise of your hands, or you can type in your chat box. Have you had these? Have you had these? Have you noticed any of these? Patterns or any of these behaviors in your kids? So, personally, I have, and I've seen a lot of kids, and this is an important challenge close to my heart. Okay. Little bit of a definition of what is a screen time. Screen time basically means any exposure to any kind of screen, whether it could be television, it could be playing video games on their video game consoles, laptops, iPads, computers, anything of that sort is the, screen time. And what are they doing on screen time? They're either watching series of shows, cartoons, or they're playing games. It can also be used. Screen time can also be used for educational stuff. If they're learning anything there, that is also possible. Or social media. That's a big one these days. Screen time is very much used for screen time. Just a little bit of stats. On average, a child between the age of 8 to 12 years is spending about 4 to 6 hours on the screens, right? And doing all the things we mentioned about. What about teenagers? Teenagers, it just has increased to 8 hours per day. 8 hours per day, 1/3 of our day. And some studies are coming up as to how much the younger kids, like, 0 to 8 months, how much are these, spending time. And kids as low as 6 months also are spending about an hour on iPads or their mom's phones. So subhanallah, so this is what we are dealing with, and let's see whether this is beneficial or not, and what happens in your child's brain. So now we jump on into the next topic, that is dopamine, because this is the chemical which is in the brain. Yeah. So just a quick question, do you know how many neurons or brain cells our human brain has? If anyone would like to, type it in the chat. So subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us, our ruh. He has made the ruh come into the body when, and this body is blessed with such amazing functionality, such amazing, tools for living our life to the fullest and for letting us humans do a lot of incredible things. And the brain is one of the big organs. And in brain, we have these small structures called neurons. And if you can see in the image on the right, you see, the...
Mr. Farhana, we don't have a presentation showing.
Really?
No.
Oh, subhanallah. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and I thought I was showing you the slides. Okay, no worries. But now we're getting started with the... Yeah, okay. Get my slides. Bismillah, bismillah, bismillah. One second. Okay, are you able to see the slides now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just scroll through. Nothing much you missed. Alhamdulillah, thing right time you mentioned. So this is our topic. This is objectives I went through. Yeah, this was when I was explaining, why this topic is so important. On the right, you see the kids, all on their laptops instead of doing all the fun activities they could do with the mud or sand. Okay, and the screen time, this is the numbers which we went through, and now we are here. Okay, all right, you need the slides for, most of the brain part. Okay, so subhanallah, so our brain has 80 billion neurons, 80 billion. So, that's how amazing, our brain is made. And the brain is made of the cells which are called neurons. And on the right, you can see the neuron. And what you see is the top, you have the cell body, and it has small roots like structures called dendrites. It has one main long you know a filament, if you want to call it, called the axon, and then which again branches on off into the small small branches called dendrites again. So in the picture above this, you see two of them, right? One is connecting to the other. So in the brain, these 80 billion neurons, they are interconnected, and the interconnection of one part of one neuron to the part of the next neuron is called a synapse. And that picture is the one which is shown with these two, yellow blobs. The top yellow blob is from one neuron, and the bottom yellow blob is from the second neuron. And a little bit of, I'm going to explain a little bit of how things work here, because that's how one nerve cell is communicating with the other. And in the top yellow blob, you can see, some small, packets, circular packets. And these are the ones which are carrying the neurochemicals, right? Neurotransmitters or neuromodulators, as they are called. These are they are the ones called vesicles, and they are carrying the dopamine. And what you see is that when one neuron wants to send a message to the other, what it does is it that small packet comes slowly to the edge of this neuron, and then it releases it. It just opens up, and the dopamine particles, which are in red, they go and they are released into the middle space. Now, there are certain receiving particles, on the yellow blob below. That belongs to the second neuron, and these are receptors. So this dopamine, comes and attaches to these receptors, and then will make certain electrical changes in the second neurons, and that's how they communicate. So subhanallah, it's very, very interesting. Read up on how the axons communicate with each other. So this is a little bit of the detailed chemical processes going on within your brain cells. Now let's look at what are the various functions of dopamine. So dopamine is very, very important in giving us a sensation of reward, that good feeling we get when we get a reward or pleasure. That's one. Also, it plays a very, very important role in motivation, in making us have that craving or that desire or that tendency to go ahead and seek out that pleasure. So that is also a very, very important function of dopamine. Dopamine plays a very, very important role in movement. It helps in the nervous system to help our control our movement of the entire body. It helps in memory and learning as well, in mood regulation. And dopamine also plays a role in how we sense and estimate time. In other words, all the bodily functions of humans in the planet, dopamine has a role. So dopamine is very, very essential chemical, within the body. Okay. And it's just not about happiness. Sometimes you might hear this, that dopamine is just about happiness. No, it's not only about pleasure, but dopamine is very important in that it helps us look out for things which are rewarding. And that's very, very essential for human survival, right? Whether it is food, we need food to survive. We need exercise. We need to be able to do any pleasurable activity. We need social companionship. So all these, actually, dopamine is getting released, and that is very, very important for the functioning of a human being. So dopamine is a very, very important one. So we cannot just quote, we cannot say dopamine is bad for us. No, it's an important chemical, within the human body. So so that's exactly what is here. And the way the dopamine, one of the top neuron releases dopamine is dependent on whether there is a reward. Have you ever experienced a time where you did not expect anyone to throw you a baby shower or a birthday party or any or bring you a gift, and then all of a sudden you got a surprise. So whenever this whenever you get an unexpected reward, your the dopamine amount, it gives a sudden release of dopamine in you, and that's why you feel that you feel very good, right? So that is dopamine, when you feel that very, very good. Now, but what about, if you have, a birthday, and every time that every birthday you're going to get your friends are going to put a surprise party for you. So the first time they did that, you really had a very good, a high level of dopamine. You felt very, very good. The second year, you kind of, you know that it's coming. You know that they're going to, your friends are good. You know that they're going to do that for you. So now it's more of anticipation, and just that, oh, you're going to do something for me. I know what it is going to be this time. So that anticipation. So when you're having that anticipation, or you're expecting something, even then that dopamine is released. And so the dopamine which is going to be released when they really throw it, you're really not as surprised, or at that job which you got the first time, you're not going to get it this time, because this is an expected reward. And for some reason, hopefully your friends, maintain that friendship, and for some reason they were not able to do it, then you're going to get disappointed. The dopamine level is going to fall, and you're going to get disappointed. So this is how the dopamine, it works with the reward system. So anything which you have made a connection in your brain, which is good, which is a pleasurable thing, and you have associated it with reward or pleasure, you want to get it, you want more, your anticipation is more, and that's what that is what creates a craving. So okay, now let's move on to the next one. Not much of I don't want to go into too much of names or details, just to explain two major pathways. There are two major sets of neurons in the brain which do with dopamine. And if you want the names, you can note it down. One is called the mesolimbic pathway, and just remember that one pathway is to the reward system, the addiction system, and the other one is mainly for the movement system. The striatonigral, the nigrostriatal pathway is more of the movement system. So dopamine is very, very important in movement. If you have heard of the disease called Parkinson's disease, or if you have seen any, family members or any relatives with this Parkinson's disease, this is a disease in which they have the dopamine levels are running so very low, because the neurons are damaged. The ones which produce this dopamine in the motor pathway, they're damaged so much that there's hardly any dopamine there, and they cannot move very well. They keep falling. They can't even swallow their food. They even the facial muscles, they don't have any expression because there's not much of movement in any of those muscles. That's a Parkinson's disease. So that's a condition where dopamine levels are very, very low. So just kind of want to emphasize that dopamine is very important in the movement. And the people with Parkinson's, their mood is also very, very, very low. So they're not able to do anything. So so that is one pathway. The other pathway is the one which we are talking about, the rewards, the craving, the one which are involved in addiction, the one which is playing a very important role in the screen time is the mesolimbic pathway. And there's connection between the lower part of the brain to the front part of the brain, where you can think, you can rational, as well as to the limbic part of the brain, where there's little memory is there, and there's the emotional part as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Are you with me? Any questions thus far? Is it if anyone wants to unmute and let me know, Sister Faida, if anyone is putting anything in chat, if you can read out the chat, it'll be appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Are we
you
good?
mentioned something about, the dopamine having functions of memory. What other things did you mention? I just wanted you to sort of say, what is it? What is it doing in memory?
So the role of the dopamine is connected with these certain parts of the brain, the limbic, where this memory is stored. And actually, I think I have probably slide, and especially the memory of you linked it with a pleasurable experience, that is stored in, that is important as well. And those neurons in this pathway, we have the memory neurons as well. So there's a connection of memory. So you remember that as a reward as well. You remember the dopamine, the pleasure you had. So there's a very important relationship with memory, the dopamine release and memory, as well as the connection of a good experience, that memory is also connected with these pathways. So that's also joining the circuitry.
Okay,
So
got it.
that's
Sister
how they are.
Ruby had a question.
Yeah.
Sister Ruby, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yeah. So Ruby, you had a question right now? But we have lots coming in. There's lots coming. But are you following with me? That's kind of what I was wanting to know. But we have lots coming. It'll become more and more clear. I'll go slow.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So next, so we're going to see the types of dopamine release. And all this is very, very important to not only understand the screen time and how you can help your kids, but almost every other aspect of our human life as well. So this is a very, very, I'm going to take a little time in this about dopamine, because it's very, very important, very helpful for everything. Now, okay, the two types of, now dopamine is released in the brain in two ways. One is there's a sustained release. You can see the dotted line. That's kind of, you have that level. That's basal level, if you want to call it, or you can call it a tonic level. So that's going to be there all the time, right? And that is very, very low in Parkinson's disease. And it's the importance of these low, this level, not low level, but this basal level. It has to be a particular level, and that will make you get up out of bed in the morning, make your bed, go and brush your teeth. So that is needed. That is very, very important for that functionality. In people Parkinson's, that goes down, so they're not able to function, even do that. So and then on top of that, you have this sudden release of dopamine by this neuron endings, which you saw in this picture, to a reward, to and when there's anticipation, that time also there's, they can release of dopamine. Certain chemicals which you're going to look through, certain foods, certain other activities can also cause these phasic in between release of dopamine. Okay, so that's the yellow line, which you see the top phase, and then you see it coming down, right? Okay. There are also types of dopamine receptors. So we on the first slide, we'd seen that when the top neuron leaks out these or vomits out these dopamine, there are certain proteins which are sitting on the bottom neuron, which will where it'll come and attach. So there are different types, D1 to D5. There's not much benefit of knowing the details at this point, but certain in reward system, the D1 is playing an important role. And then, when the reward keeps happening again and again, you will see that the amount of, there's something called down regulation, which I'll go through. In that, there's this D2, which is an inhibitory receptor, is playing some role. But just remember the different, types of, different types of receptors. Okay. So again, a little brief on the functions of dopamine. We talked about the motion. When there's a lot of dopamine, too much excess of dopamine in the brain, you can even have abnormal movements. It's in certain patients, you can see that it's too much excess of dopamine. And if you don't have enough dopamine, the normal, especially the basal level of dopamine, then you hardly can move, and that's the Parkinson's disease. These are the two ends of the spectrum. But we are kind of more interested in the middle area of spectrum. What does dopamine do with the emotions? With emotions, when you have the dopamine, imagine anything of any surprise which you got, right? Euphoria, the excitement, more surprise and the more unexpected it is, the joy is high. And again, if the dopamine levels go beyond a particular level, then you can go into hallucinations and psychosis. So it can lead to some psychiatric issues. And again, if you do not have this dopamine, you are not feeling very good. You are not feeling good. You have no interest in anything. I am bored. Do something. I don't feel like doing. That's feeling flat. So that is what happens when your dopamine levels are running low. Then it also has a level on hormones as well. For example, excess excess of dopamine is going to inhibit the hormone called prolactin, but when you don't have enough of dopamine, then it can cause issues like amenorrhea, bleeding irregularities in women. It can cause impotence in men. So lot of effect on various functions of the human body. Okay. Now let's see what happens. When are the times when the in between releases happen, and So basically, it's like Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants us to eat, wants us to do something. So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has associated it with this feeling good by releasing, dopamine at those times. For example, and let's see these natural rewards which happen normally. Okay, like for example, when you eat food, if the normal level is, normal level, is a baseline, it goes 100% above. Especially it is the sugar and the fatty foods. And the food for which you have a good memory. I mean, and that's that when you eat that food, you'll have more pleasure. For example, in childhood, your mom made a particular kind of cake, and you remember that, you like it. So that's where memory also comes in. It's stored as a good thing in your mind. When you eat that after a long period of time, you're going to really enjoy that. Also for the higher palatable foods. Again, high palatable foods are, we do like certain kinds of food. They have to have the right texture. They must be particular flavor. Again, flavor lots comes in from your childhood memories of what you associated with good and tasty, and also it has to be with the smell, aroma. All of that together is going to give you a release in dopamine, and that's why you feel good. Okay, and it's about 100% from the baseline. All right, so it becomes double. For example, if your level is 2, it becomes 4. Okay, that's what 100% increase means. Exercise also normally causes release in dopamine, and the amount is around 50 to 80%. Not as much as eating your favorite dessert. But little less than that, but it does release dopamine as well, and it also releases under chemicals called endorphins, which will mask pain. Okay, so just that's a little additional point there. What about social interaction? When you go out with friends, when you have a nice time, it does. You have, dopamine is released, and along with that, actually, another chemical called the oxytocin, which is a love chemical, is also released along with dopamine, and that builds trust. You feel very safe, so it's a very, very good experience. So not only is dopamine released in social interactions, but the oxytocin, which is a very good chemical, is also released. Then music, in music, dopamine again is released. In music, especially, what happens is that so again, you see 50 to 90%. Like from the baseline, it goes up by under 90%, which is quite a good amount. In music, basically, more in the type of music where you are, where it's building and building and building, and then it hits a peak, that is one way how that kind of music will release more. Or if there's a particular beat, in the music, they put a particular beat. So, they put a beat, and then they put a beat, and so your brain knows, okay, the third next beat is coming, and the beat, so that anticipation is also by that you could, yeah. So if you could, so that the beat is coming, and then, the beat is coming, the anticipation of the beat, yes, it's a beat. So that beat, that's the beat of the music, will also, the chorus, going to the sudden peak high, and, and then it comes down, and then it stops, and then finally they take the big height in the pitch, or the, in the melody. So music releases dopamine. Sex releases dopamine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is normal, in adults for procreation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, the reward of dopamine is also there. So that's the good feeling. Okay. So it's needed. It's needed for human beings. Without that, we would not be doing the things we would be doing, which are necessary for human survival. Okay. Now the problem happens when when too much of it is coming out, right? Too much of dopamine is coming out, and when too much of dopamine is coming out, the brain doesn't like it. The amazing part of the human body is the human body itself has a way of trying to keep you in the middle, trying to keep you in the right zone, right? Preventing that extremes. And we will see that happens with this dopamine. Okay, but before going into how the body tries to get the dopamine back, let's look into what are these substances which are producing lot of dopamine, too much. Smoking produces around 200%, right? So if your level was 2, it's going to be 6 now. Okay. Alcohol, again, 40 to 130%. Cocaine, 300 to 400%. Okay, just remember a ballpark of these numbers, because when we're going to come to screen time, we will see how much of that dopamine is getting released. Amphetamine is one of the drugs which produces methamphetamine, Adderall. These are, Adderall is used for treating ADHD. That also releases dopamine, 1000%. It's too much dopamine everywhere. Opioids, heroin, fentanyl, So all of these are producing, you see that numbers now is becoming double or triple or 4 times. In the case of amphetamine, your basal level is, if it's 2, then it's 20. So, that much of dopamine, too much dopamine is flooding in there. And remember, the amount of dopamine present in those neurons, which we saw, those bags or those vesicles or those, those packets of dopamine, they are limited. The brain does not have an unlimited supply. Again, this point is very important as to what happens when too much of dopamine is released. Okay. Now let's come to screen time. So, okay, we saw the numbers for natural, regular stuff. We saw the numbers for these addictive stuff. Now, what about screen time? So, so in social media, when you get the first like, the amount of dopamine that is released is equivalent to the amount of dopamine which is released when you take a puff of marijuana or anything like that. So it's 100%, 50 to 100%. The first one, the one which is you didn't expect, came out of the blue, was a surprise, was a novice, was a novelty, new things. That's going to give the biggest rises, right? So social media, yeah, 100%. But again, if you're every day you're going getting everywhere, every day you're getting a like, then it'll kind of slowly come down. Video games, again, if you are a video game player yourself, you will know that the reward, the way they make the video games is such that you cannot expect where your enemy is, or they come out of the blue, and then you shoot them, and and then so it's a surprise win. It's a surprise win, right? That's kind of, it's unexpected win, surprise win. They keep you waiting, and then yes, it's kind of like gambling, right? So that's the tactic which is used. So 150%, okay, is increasing there. Pornography, again, it's similar to sex, 100 to 200%, okay. Binge watching, okay, Netflix and binge. I think binge watching, for those who are used to watching the soap operas on your TV, you really, really, really know how they hook you with this technique of the curiosity and the cliffhanger. Because again, there's novelty there, there's anticipation there. So whenever there's anticipation, there's dopamine, is going to rise. And the next time, and when the next episode comes, nothing happened, right? Nothing happened, and you're not going to get the dopamine release there. All the dopamine is getting released is that anticipating what will happen. And the media or the soap opera, they know how to hook you so that you'll just log on to the next one. But once that's done, you didn't get that excitement next time. Nothing happened, right? So binge watching, so that feelings you're having is all because of the dopamine release. Okay, so but what is the problem with these? So normally we are used to this, and now we are seeing that at least most of them, they are at least 100% more. So you're not at the basal level anymore. You are having these phasic releases, and these phasic releases are quite high, right? So now why can't this body keep on enjoying and feel pleasure, unlimited pleasure? So that's not how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has designed us in this earth, right? Allah has one, just like He's limited everything. He's limited our vision. He's limited our capacity of hearing. He's even limited the ability of pleasure in this dunya. And I think in Jannah, my hypothesis is that limitation is not going to be there. So if you look at the graph in the right side, you can see that the first time you read something, the spike was very high. You had a lot of dopamine, you liked it, but you kept on. They repeated use. Repeated use. What is happening is that the neuron is not having any dopamine more to release. It's repeating, and it's not having any more, and so you don't get as much. You don't get as much spike, but your memory remembers the initial spike, and now you don't feel as good as that. But you want that good because that was a good feeling, right? Okay. And then you also see, and the other thing you can notice in this graph is that in the first graph, when the only one time you had it, just the dip was there, and it'll come back and come back to the basal level. But in the second, you see the dip is too low. It's going beyond the basal level to too low of a point where you're feeling really bad and you're feeling pain, or you're feeling you're feeling not comfortable, and then when it comes back, it's the basal level is going to be lesser than what it used to be before you started that activity. Okay, so these things we'll look at a little bit more detail, and this is why these are why it is this is why these screens and these repeated activities are very, very dangerous. So normally in a normal life, these food is intermittent, 2 times 3 times a day is intermittent, exercise is intermittent. So all these usually social, you're not going with people all the time, it's all a little bit of intermittent. But the screen time activities, and the even the addiction drug, people tend to get into very, very, very repeated times. Okay. All right. So yeah, now I think, okay, let's do this. Now, dopamine and pleasure and memory. So a couple more things you got to know about dopamine, and then we can move on to, what solutions we have. So I see dopamine is very, very linked with memory. As I said, you remember that experience. Okay. That is very, very important. You remember for example, if it's a drug addict, he remembers how he felt the first time. Okay. So 2 things happen because of that. Because of that, now he wants to replicate that particular level of feeling. So that creates craving. Okay. That's one. And, but the body doesn't work that way, because of the amount which is already, neurons either have released it or finished it, or they have lesser of it, it's not going to give that the same amount. Okay. And that makes a person see what he can do more. So maybe he'll increase the dose of the medicine, or maybe he'll watch something more, or he'll watch let's try a new video game. One video game is done, they kind of move on to the next video game, or more video game which has more cliffhangers, more novelty, more surprises in the video game, so that they will try to up it, try to get that level. So that is one issue with this remembering what previous experience you had. Okay, but you're not getting that. You in the picture you can see, right? You have the first peak and then the second peak, which is not going to be as high as the first. So that is one issue of having this. Also you want to remember that the feeling of pleasure depends on the difference between the peak and what your basic regular level is. A simple example to explain this would be if you have not gotten tasty food for maybe a week, and then your mom makes a tasty dish, for example, biryani, right? Back in the day, it is only few occasions, Eid or birthday, or that's the only time when you get biryani. Biryani tastes so very good, right? Because your basal level is low, and then it's an unexpected thing. But now you start eating it, every week you got biryani. It's not going to taste as much, okay? Because the difference actually is going to come down. So you have to remember that it depends upon the difference as well. A few more things. This is again just the addiction loop. You had that experience, you had the stimulus, whatever, for the first time. Dopamine was released. You felt amazing the first time, and now you have attached with it the memory of feeling good. Your brain wants good, and let's do that again, right? And brain likes to, there's a reward reinforcement loop in the brain, which wants you to do it again and again, and that results in the habit. But unfortunately, the problem here is that the second time you do it, you're not going to get as much, so you have to raise the dose, or raise the, if it's a drug, you have to raise the dose, or you have to keep raising it, and that goes loop-de-loop, and that's a big issue. And along with that is the issue of a crash. So the crash is basically because the neuron it's complete. It has only this limited amount of dopamine at a particular time. When you are causing those peaks, there will be this. Your dopamine levels will dip below the baseline level, and then after some time, the body will produce that dopamine, and it will come back to the baseline level. Now, higher the peak, the more the dip, right? And that time you're going to feel pain. The drug addicts, they actually feel the unpleasant feeling here, and after a particular time, in the drug addicts, it's because they want to prevent this crash that they end up doing, because no longer they're feeling the peak now. It's to prevent a crash, and they're feeling so. It leads you into very, very um, you know difficult place there. Now it's no longer even excited about playing the video game, but if you don't play the video game, you're feeling so lousy that you want to play it. So you can reach that level as well. So that is a little bit about that crash, which is very, very important. Higher the peak, the higher the crash as well. This in Other examples of these crashes, actually, the postpartum um, depression, right? In postpartum depression, for 9 months you have the anticipation, your dopamine levels are very high, and after it can come down and feel, not everyone goes through this, but they feel very low, and it can take some time, a few weeks, a couple of months for it to come back. Uh, and another, example of this dopamine deficit and depression is also seen in the Olympic athletes. Michael Phelps, if you know, he's a swimmer who's won a lot of swimming gold medals, and he went through this race. So they practice, they're in anticipation of winning the gold medal, or marathon race or whatever, and then they practice and practice, and they are used to that, and high levels exercising, that's releasing dopamine. They're used to that high level, the anticipation is releasing dopamine, and then finally they get it. That will give a little bit of raise in dopamine as well, and then after that, they've been in a sustained level of dopamine for long, so they go low, and then they feel depressed. So Michael Phelps, has recorded, he felt a lot of depression after. So Olympic players, they go through this depression. Okay. Okay, now I think we're just going to come back to our screen time and dopamine. So this is just a reminder, the social media, the likes, especially when you put something and you're waiting for that first like, and when you're waiting itself, you're releasing dopamine, and then you get the first like, dopamine is released as well. Video games, again, more surprising, more novelty, more cliffhanging moments in the video game, more the addiction. Binge watching, I think we talked that as well. Okay. And what are okay, so this is kind of, okay, the chemicals released in a day, and then you feel low. What about if you are in habit of doing this every day, right? That's what the screen time. There's not a 1 day screen. They're not watching. Okay, you watch just once a year. You watched one binge watch a show. That, and then the rest of the year you are not watching any show. You're okay. That's fine. But what happens if you're every day constantly engaging in binge watching soap operas? Okay, or the TV serials on. What happens on that? So they also, it's this long time effect of the body. And here, the fact I was talking about, the brain wants to wants to regulate it. So one of the receptors which we talked about, D2, don't have to remember names, but that is basically the brain is getting the message. There's a lot of dopamine in me. We don't need this much. Let's kind of reduce the receptors. Let's not make as much dopamine. So the neurons will not make as much as dopamine, and then let's the receptors which were which attached to these dopamine, we don't need too much of them, because all of this dopamine, so they will down regulate these receptor, D2 receptor specifically, to compensate for the overload. That's the brain's initial way of trying to bring it back. Okay. And then we talked about this tolerance as well, right? The first time experience is not the same, is not the second time's experience, and especially if it comes in very frequently, then the neurons are not having enough dopamine.
Mr. Farhana? Sister Farhana, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Sister Farhana, can you hear me? Are you there, Sister Farhana? Let me try calling you. Okay, still trying to get hold of Sister Farhana. Sister Shazia, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. I think we got Sister Farhana back.
I think she's back. Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Did you lose me long back or
Yeah,
just
we lost you. It's good you're back. So we'll need your
wait?
presentation back, inshallah, continue, yeah?
Yeah, where did you lose me though? Let me show which slide and I can continue from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So is audio? Are you following me, Sister Shazia? Is it clear enough or is it slow enough? Or let me know if I need to take it down too slow.
No, it's good.
You follow
Continue.
me?
No,
Okay.
we're following you. It was good, you know.
Okay. I think we almost did this down regulation. Okay.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Okay. All right. So I think we're almost, coming to the end of, the dopamine stuff now. But is this very important to understand? And the reason I spent some time here was, is my screen shown though? Yeah, we can see it, right?
We can't see your screen yet.
You can't see your screen. Okay.
Okay.
Good thing I checked. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay. Stop. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله بسم الله. Slides. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can see now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's almost there. We're almost done with dopamine. If anyone's getting bored. Okay. So where we be? Yeah. So long term. Yeah. So down regulation. Yeah. So this I think we have already discussed. So basically, so if dopamine is constantly being released, once in a while you enjoy some, binge watch a show that's once a year, once in twice years, once in 2 years or so, it's different. But it's every day when you do it, then the dopamine is too much, and the brain is saying, "Come on, let's reduce the number of these receptors." We have too much of dopamine. We don't need this much receptors. That's a body way to try to reduce the impact of excessive dopamine. And this is the scan, of a brain scan of a person with on the left side of the screen, you see healthy person, and the red is the dopamine activity, which is present in a healthy person. And then in the right side, what you would expect is you'd expect more red, right? Because he's doing drugs, right? So he should have a lot of red. No, but chronically when he's doing, this is like a person who is doing drugs for many, many for maybe months at least, you see that the amount of dopamine in his is low, okay, on the right side. And that's because his body is, the brain has reduced the numbers of the D2 receptors in him, and the dopamine activity is low. And now he's not enjoying drugs anymore, and now he's feeling very bad because he doesn't have even the that energy and that mood to do normal things, and he's feeling pain, and just to prevent that pain, he goes back to drugs again, hoping that it is a thing, but he's a losing battle at this point. And then the concept of tolerance is, again, to get the same amount of pleasure, you got to do a more intense or more novel or a more exciting thing, right? That's the tolerance. And we also talked about hedonia, which is if you keep on doing things which are releasing high dopamine, then your basal level becomes low. We saw that curve, it comes lower than what is needed to kind of enjoy the basic activities of daily life, and that's no interest in anything. Okay. And these conditions sometimes can get misdiagnosed with depression, can get misdiagnosed with ADHD, but where in fact really they are due to our low dopamine levels because of chronic releasing too much of dopamine. Yeah. So now let's come to what we can do about it, right? So think of dopamine as important chemical in the thing, but just as anything else in the human body, the dopamine level, it needs to be within that healthy range, right? Too much of dopamine, we saw the problems: down regulation, with tolerance, no interest in doing anything; lower chronic basal levels, and no interest in doing anything. Too low levels, if in any disease or conditions like Parkinson's, where your cells, neurons which are producing dopamine are gone, then you can't move out of bed, right? You're too lethargic. So we need to basically get this optimal goal. Okay. Now let's see how we can do it. Okay. And let's link this now with the screen time. You can link this dopamine with anything, whether it's food addiction, whether it is any substance abuse, whether it's with pornography, whether you can use, whether it's binge watching serial episodes, though you don't want to, but you just end up doing it, whether you're fixated on social media, scrolling, waiting for likes. You can apply those principles for anything. And the techniques that you're using for the screen time can also be applied for anything. So that's the benefit of this session, I hope, inshallah. So screen time, again, social media, if the kids are on games, then as we already talked, how it is going to keep producing. And thing is with this screen time is that they're on it 4 hours. We looked at the numbers: 4 hours a day for young kids, adolescents 8 hours per day. So that much of
Sister Farhana, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. SubhanAllah, this doesn't happen usually, but this is an important topic, I guess, and someone doesn't like this being discussed. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Farida. You can hear me now?
I can hear you. You are twice on there, so I'm leaving you twice on there. Oh, you went off on the other one. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Please continue, yeah. And you're going to put your screen up, yeah?
Yeah, I'm so sorry about this, but SubhanAllah, It's unusual. This happens. Okay. So is everyone with me? Okay, we're almost, yeah. So we're now coming back.
The one with the blue light and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're coming back to now the screen time and the solutions. And as I said, these solutions can be used for any other kind of addiction or anything else which you want to, regulate in your life. So kids we see, so they're basically every time for example, video game they're playing, every time they get a win, the dopamine is released. So it's that very frequent and that intense, right? 2 times or at least double the amount, 100% at least, if not more. So that is, we talked about that. Then they have, see dopamine, they will also, once you take it away, once they go in the pain, when they are in running the low phase, they are going to be very, very irritable. So you're going to see that they are going to be very irritated and very frustrated. Okay, and their brain and they just want to get back to that level of dopamine. So what they try is they want to go back to playing again. So they're upset with you if you take away the screen time. Okay. And if you offer them anything which is a lesser dopamine release, they are not going to find interest in that. Why don't you go for a walk? I am bored. I am bored. I am bored is what you're going to hear, from them, all through. It can cause, sleep disruption as well. The screen time, then screen time can also cause, the blue. In addition to the dopamine issues, the blue light, which is produced from the screen, it reduces the amount of other hormone called melatonin, which helps in resting and relaxing in nighttime. So poor sleep, again, worsening the mood again. So it's just a little vicious cycle there. And some kids, are more prone to addiction. They can just keep on hours. They can stop school. They can be they can't even control themselves from coming off their video games or screen to a point that they don't want to even go to school or even do anything else. So they lost control, right? So that is addiction. So that is that's one important point. Little stats on mental health disorders. From 2016 to 2021, in children between 3 years and 17 years of age, there was an increase in mental issues, developmental issues, behavioral issues from 25% to 27%. But this is already, in 2016, our games and smartphones and screens were already rampantly in use. And then this other study where teenagers who had 4 hours of time, 4 hours daily, they're playing, they had more symptoms of depression symptoms. And the age group, the adolescents are very vulnerable. That they found in study 12 to 19, they have a higher incidence of depression compared to younger children. So a lot of mental illness and depression associated with that. And then, in addition to mental health issues, other problems are poor academic performance. Their ability to talk to other people, develop connections, develop bonding. That those skills are hard for them. They're not used to rejection. They want everything very, very instantly. They cannot wait. The craving is too much, as we saw in that loop cycle. And there's also studies where children with more than 2 hours of screen time, their cognitive scores, the brain functioning scores were also very, very poor. So again, if you're interested, there are studies done by National Institute of Health. In this, there is they found there's the processing information, the thinking, the critical thinking, the executive functions of the brain. They were low in children in whom there was screen time was more than 2 hours a day. So so 2 hours, they have a lot of studies. They studied in kids 2 hours and less than 2 hours more than 2 hours. So 2 hours of screen time more than that every day was resulting in poor processing, executive functions, cognitive skills, IQ, all that. They did, this is a big study, 11,000 kids. So it's a big one. Again, this understudy out of Lancet, again here, language skills are also impacted. So in addition to cognition, language skills are also affected. And then there are also studies which prove the anxiety and depression, which we kind of already just looked. Okay. So Alhamdulillah for the teachings of Islam. So the best part is this is all reversible. This is all preventable. And if only we understood the benefits of the teachings of Islam. Okay. So let's kind of go ahead and subhanallah, if you know now compare the how to reset the dopamine with how to get it back, how to get that basal level back, how to enjoy things. It's good to enjoy things in between, and that's a part of life. That's what keeps us in gratitude, that keeps us healthy. So to set that back, there is way. So there's way. Very, very simple ways, very, very preventable if only we knew the importance of it, right? So the first one is the things I put in red is the Islamic practices recommended. That's in red, and so subhanallah, everything is already taught, and everything is already. Even if scientists had never discovered dopamine, if we were to follow the teachings of Islam, we would be fine. We were totally fine. Okay, so first one is dopamine fasting, right? So we need to reduce the screen time, right? That's one. Because as you said, we do not want to deplete. We do not want to empty off our neurons with dopamine. That's one thing we don't want to do. We want to make sure that it's not too frequent, and the motivation of doing that can be, if I do it less frequently, I'll enjoy that more. So the way to use pleasure itself as a way of doing way of reducing the screen time. You tell them you are going to have more fun watching a movie if I give you less of it, or once a week, or I give you restrict your screen time. You only on the weekend, or only 1 hour on the weekend, and you don't play the rest of the week. You're going to like you're playing video game with your friends better, right? So that can be used as a incentive to reduce that. The same thing for if you're used to eating junk food. You tell yourself that if I don't eat for a week, then I can I'll enjoy it better. And it's okay to enjoy this. These are safe things, and the levels are not too intense as any drugs. The same things to enjoy. So halal things to enjoy. So so that can be one incentive for you. So dopamine fasting. Subhanallah, and if you look fasting in Ramadan, it exactly with food, again with music, with screen time, with smoking, everything is prevented, and that kind of is going to bring your basal dopamine levels back to where they're supposed to be, and prevent that and also reduce that the emptied neurons are going to get repleted, and all of that is going to happen. So all things are going to come back to their healthy baseline. In other words, fasting is subhanallah, and that too we do it for 1 month, right? And for 1 month we do this, so every receptor, everything's all going to come back in their normal healthy way. And the fasting, in kids who are addicted to screen time, where it's a severe problem, if you take them to treatment centers, they will do this dopamine fasting for a period of 4 months at least. 4 weeks. So subhanallah, again, the timing of Ramadan, 4 weeks, perfect. So 4 to 6 weeks at least they got to do. The first 14 days are going to be tough. They're going to feel very, very lousy. It's going to be tough, very, very lousy. And I think for us, if we talk about Ramadan, I think the whole thing of the prayer and all of that is preventing us from having that lousy feeling. And going in for the prayers and being together, all that gives a lot of dopamine release, so you don't feel that lousy when you do it in this organic way of Ramadan. So that's one. The second is you got to do the delayed gratification. I'll go delayed gratification. Basically, it means that you want to delay the reward. You don't want to get it. The craving, the addiction loop basically is craving, you want it immediately, craving, so that the haste, that is kind of, that you practice. You say, no, I'm not going to get it now. And subhanAllah, the very concept of delayed gratification is, you're going to get the reward in the akhirah, but here I'm just going to get the reward out of putting the effort, striving. That is an inbuilt concept in Islam. Okay? Deep work and achievement. Again, Islam demands us to do the work here and enjoy the striving itself. And you can train your brain to enjoy the striving itself. And that striving itself can release dopamine, the level of dopamine though. So striving, others are exercise. It will raise, we saw that 80% it will raise. So exercise is good, and it keeps that raised level, unlike that peak with a sudden win, peak, it's just going to keep it a steady level, just basal, that's good. So exercise is going to be helpful. Sunlight, exposure to sun, that helps. And then cold showers, waking up in the morning, and don't warm up the cold water in your sink. Take that, when you're doing wudu, take that cold shower, the cold, it is a cold wudu. That has found to increase the release of dopamine, but it's a healthy release. In a sense, it is keeping that dopamine level sustained. What we see in other, addictions and other screen time, social media likes, is all that it's a sudden peak, up and down, right? No, this is not it. This is a very sustained release. It gives you more energy. Dopamine actually works along with the adrenaline, so it'll keep you, so you get the pleasure from the dopamine, and you get the alertness, from the concentration, the alertness, of focus from our adrenaline. So both go hand in hand, and that's what happens with the cold baths, cold showers. Meditation again stabilizes dopamine. So thinking, reflecting on the ayat of the Quran, going out in the nature, reflecting on things, again will raise that lower level of dopamine to a very healthy level, and also will keep it sustained and not in those irregular things which we talked about. Social bonding, again, you go to the masjid 5 times a day, bond with your community members. That also releases hormone. Again, these are very healthy releases of dopamine. Sleep also releases dopamine. Then nutrition, there's certain amino acids from which the dopamine is produced, and this is called tyrosine. So the foods which are rich in them, include eggs, lean meat, almonds, all these, they boost the dopamine production, and then again salat. And I mean, subhanAllah, if there are any neuro science students, I'm sure if you do research studies in salat in Jama and fasting, you'll find this healthy and normalized releases of dopamine, which are healthy for us. So these are this is subhanAllah, in Islam, and this thing. And okay, what can you, again, a little bit more of practicality in these 5 steps. So in the step ones, the one important thing we want to remember is that every activity can release dopamine, right? For example, exercise can release dopamine. If you drink the pre-energy drinks, some of them, they release dopamine. If you, on top of that, if you listen to music, they release dopamine. So these will all add up and give you a very high peak. So and higher the peak, lower the dip. So what you want to do is, you basically don't want, you want to have a different amount of dopamine at different times. Don't want to have it too close by, and that's kind of what you want to put in your, that's what you want to do in your schedule, and you want to have different levels at different times. So one of the ways how we could do is, if for example, with the video game, the kid is playing a video game and he's playing with his friends, so he's also socializing, so that is also giving dopamine release, plus the video game is giving him dopamine release, right? So it's getting a more peaker. So what he can do is, one, he can space us out, as I said, make it every week, one time, and then to alter the peaks, it can be sometimes just he plays alone, sometimes he plays with his friends. So just kind of keeping it at a random, and also random days, so there's no craving, no anticipation. So just randomly, if we can split, then the amount of the dopamine peaks are going to be lesser, and then the crashes are going to be lesser. So that's one thing they could do. So so first, and they want to avoid too many things. Now they're playing the game with their friends and eating sugary stuff. All these 3-4 things. In the takeout, make them healthy food. Let them play alone sometimes. Let them play with their friends sometimes. So let's kind of make it very variable. The more variable, the better, and the lesser the frequency, the better. So these are the 2 things which we need to, in any plan, whether it's for diet, whether any plan, you got to apply that principle. The second principle was the randomize your dopamine release. I think we already talked about that. Talked about reducing the things. Don't pile up the things which will cause dopamine. You're eating chocolate, and you're drinking coffee, and you're listening to music, and you're socializing. Don't do all multiple things together, because those are going to give too high of peaks. So first step 3 was this is one of the most important thing. I think Islam promotes this: attach dopamine to effort. So you can train yourself to release healthy dopamine by training yourself or your kids not to rewards. The rewarding system, I know we in school and we parents, we kind of tend to do the rewarding system, but not to rewards, rather to the effort. The effort of rather to the effort of striving. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran keeps on saying, the effort of working hard is what matters to me, and your reward is later in Jannah. So in Jannah, so I mean, how to explain this in terms of see, if you, for example, if the kid is saying, okay, if you don't watch screen today, I'm going to give you some other reward. Don't, something which he likes. Don't do that. Rather, just appreciate him that he's able to, keep himself away from it. And for that, you want to give, maybe acknowledgement. That is probably not as high dopamine as giving him a cake or a candy or anything like that, because that's again going to give a dopamine. So don't replace one thing by another reward, which will give him the dopamine. Rather, teach you can train him. Okay, the very fact that you restrained yourself is a very good thing, and he can. Elder kids, the ones who have the prefrontal cortex, got 12, below 12 years, it may be difficult, but after 12 years, the teens, they can definitely do this. They can reinforce and they can teach themselves that this striving itself is very good, and Allah will reward it. And we just add, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward it as well. That becomes a good, motivation to learn the effort. And then when they are able to do it, we appreciate that. So that is one big trick which can be used in adults, and it can be used for them to put them in challenging activities. So that's again where they can, as long as they're trying the challenging activity, that's good. It's not about winning that. It's not about winning that game or winning this. It's about being there persistently and working hard. And you can train your kids from a little age to get that. Right now, the system, it's like for everything they win, you want to give a reward. Don't jump into that habit as parents. Rather, you teach them, appreciate them, and make them lock their dopamine system in the effort. The effort is what is giving the pleasure. And this is a very healthy dopamine, and this is going to help them do very, 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 very productive stuff in life. So this step 3 is difficult to create in your kids, but you can do it from childhood, and this is going to take them to do their highest potential. It will develop grit, which is very, very, very important, and they will enjoy it as well. That is the best part. So dopamine gets released when they're doing that hard work. So step 3 is very, very crucial if you want to take that. Step 4, limit the use of stimulants. Again, you don't want to give fruity juices, sugary donuts, candies. No, you want to avoid that. And then you avoid reflexive triggers. And this is very much comes with screen. Don't keep just the craving comes, and even without knowing, you're waking up in the morning and you're swiping your social media posts. So keep it away. It's a reflex. You're not even thinking about it, but you're just taking the phone and you're just swiping the shorts, YouTube shorts, and so on and on and on, up an hour. And the dopamine affects the time perception. So time will pass by and you will not realize it. That's what dopamine does. No wonder we feel that the world, the time is passing too fast. The perception time is also by dopamine. So these are important steps. I think the third step is the most important. If we can, as parents, do that, attach dopamine to effort, put them in challenging activities, learning activities, anything like that. Some tidbits again, I guess. 1 to 2 hour max for entertainment. Get them outdoor play, reading, hobbies. The first 2 weeks you try to take them away from the screen will be very, very tough on you. Be prepared. They're going to be very upset, irritable, not finding pleasure in anything. But 2 weeks you be there with them in that state of mind, they're going to be totally fine. They will start, everything will come back. So that's the best part. It's all reversible, nothing to worry about. But it's going to be difficult to do that first 2 weeks, but we can do that. Family connections, we 80% good dopamine. That's good. We like that. And make groups with. The biggest challenge I felt personally as a parent was that when I want take my kids, the rest of the kids are on video games playing, and they want my kid to be on the on the screen as well. That is where I think it's important to educate other parents about these dopamine and make groups so that you can form healthy play dates outside of the screen time. So very, very important to educate your parents with parents of your kids' friends, so that you can plan better. So this summer, that's what we have planned with my friends. We're going to do productive activities for the kids with their friends, taking away the screen from their pictures. So plan for summers. Sports, engaging stuff, learning new skills, art, whatever they're interested other than that. And what can be done at the next question we had was what can be done at the society level. Now we just saw what can be done as a parent at an individual level. Even individual level is very tough. Trust me, you can lose your patience as parents. Make groups, parents, small groups of kids in your local community, so you can do that as parents together. And community and society level, countries like China have very, very strict measures. They realize this. They have already taken action, limiting limiting 1 hour per week, 1 hour per day on weekends, nothing in weekdays. I think they have that rule for minors. In Singapore, again, they have restricted to under 18 months, nothing less than that. They want to restrict it to less an hour or two. In Sweden, recently, I think they passed some guidelines as well, limiting screen time for teens and children. Even the European Union has been talking about this, but I don't think whether they just want to increase awareness and responsibly use. But that's all the vague terms. I looked up in American Academy of Pediatrics. Nothing strong coming out here again, except China and Sweden, Singapore. Australia has done lots too. Yes, Australia, I saw that they had a regulation at the government level, but nothing in US. They said in 18 months below, nothing. That is in US, but 2 to 5 years, 1 hour per day, and then after 6, they said parents can decide, and they just left it all on us to deal with it. And then just one more last before I conclude. This is regarding the tech education. Now what they're doing is they have, since COVID especially, this is accelerated. They're including the Google Chromebooks. All the homeworks are on the laptops, emails. The textbooks are on the screen. So that has just escalated the screen time, to 8 hours, more. And so screen time includes even educational activity, by the way. It's not just the pleasurable screen time. And just wanted to throw some light that the TikTok owner, he does not let his kids on TikTok. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they don't let their kids to be on these iPads and laptops, but they do introduce Google Chromebooks for schools. And they sell this, saying it's good for kids. Kids will get better in this. They do not have any studies on that, but they did that. Nevertheless, schools paid a lot of money, at least in the US, to get all these Google Chromebooks in every school possible. And the kids are now on them. And yes, they're more on some other sites rather than the educational sites. But this is an issue which needs to be taken up by the parents and the community members for the kids' welfare. We got a question: is this the best way, especially for the younger kids, right? So advocacy, policy making, and I think this is something which we need to really look into. So I think that's pretty much. I think I already. I think there's probably too much overload, but please, any questions if you have, I will try to answer them. Hope the understanding the mechanisms will help you, come up with ways to do this. Yeah. Okay. Are we there, Sister Farida? You're here?
Yeah, we're here. I'm just putting out the survey form, and please ask questions. It's a good time to say something you didn't understand, and please go ahead and ask questions. We're putting the survey form on. Please do answer it, and suggest what changes you're going to bring towards, handling this issue, because it's slowly crept into our lives, hasn't it? And changed things so severely without us even noticing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions for Sister Farna? Please go ahead. You can write in chat. What are some of the changes you would make? What do you think you would make? Can you share them? Sister Malik and Sister Shama are both thanking you, Sister Farna, for the talk. Very beneficial.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for parents. It's a tough one, but I think it can be done in groups. We can win it.
Sister Shama, go ahead. Please unmute and ask.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sister Shama. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you, sister?
I'm doing very well.
Jazakallah khair for such an amazing, guideline, because this is first time I knew the new things and solutions. It's been many years thinking about how can I start, how can I start, and still I'm thinking how can I start. I started talking with my children about different things.
Good.
Like the things that we need to prioritize in life as a Muslim and but the most difficult thing is from where to start.
Yeah.
What should be the first step towards in this advanced age? And
it is. Yeah. How old are the kids? Because below 12, they are not going to be understanding any rational explanation you give.
Yeah. The 13 and 15 boys.
Okay, so they are big. They are big. So I would ask them to research. I would ask them to research about dopamine. Or talk to them about dopamine. That is one way we can do, and because they can now think. They can now think what is good for them, what is bad for them. They have to be they have to be responsible for that. So they can think now. So I would engage them in a conversation, bring in, how, Islam, whatever Islam was teaching was to protect us, put that concept in them as well. And then, ask them to, go for, healthy stuff, playing out with friends. If you can get them to work hard, the striving, that will be a victory. Appreciate them for anything they work hard, effort. Put them in situations where they put challenging effort, and then they will feel they'll feel good about themselves. And once they get hooked up to that dopamine, then your battle is won. We initially first 2 weeks is going. If they're used to it, they're going to be upset with you for the first 2 weeks. It's and you're okay with that. Tell my job as a parent is to help you, and I'm going to put this for your betterment. So you got to be able to tell that, but talk to them. Do that, but please share, others, others in the group, please share your experiences. Maybe you have better techniques. Please, I think we need to share as moms. Sister Sadia, go ahead.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. میں یہ ان کی بات سن بھی رہی تھی اور الحمدللہ آپ کا جو یہ لیکچر سنا تو بڑا اچھا لگا اور اس میں کافی انفارمیٹیو چیزیں تھیں. خیر ڈوپامین کے بارے میں پہلے بھی ہمیں تو خیر اپنے وقت میں نہیں پتا تھا، لیکن ابھی کچھ پیچھے بھی ریسنٹلی کچھ ایسے لیکچر سننے میں آئے کہ جس میں انہوں نے سوری میرا گلا تھوڑا خراب ہے، تو انہوں نے کافی ڈوپامین کے بارے میں بتایا اور پھر ہمیں فرسٹ ٹائم پتا چلا کہ یہ ہمارے لیے مطلب کتنا کچھ مطلب جو اللہ تعالیٰ نے رکھا ہے. ظاہر بات ہے کہ اللہ کا ہر کام جو ہے اس میں بینیفٹس ہمارے لیے ہوتے ہیں اور حکمت کے ساتھ ہوتا ہے، لیکن جب ہم اس کو خود مس یوز کرتے ہیں یا ہم اس کو جو ہے وہ غلط طریقوں سے اس کو ہم یوز کرتے ہیں تو وہ پھر ظاہر بات ہے کہ وہ ہمارے لیے نقصان دیتا ہے. یہ جو بات ابھی کر رہی ہے نا سسٹر شمع کے بچوں کو، جو ٹین ایجر اسپیشلی بچے ہیں، تو میں نے یہ اپنے بچوں پہ بھی دیکھا اور ابھی حالانکہ میرے بچے تو الحمدللہ کافی بڑے ہو گئے ہیں، لیکن مطلب میں جب ان سے یہ بات بھی کرتی تھی نا تو یہ بچوں کو سمجھ نہیں آتی ہے اس ٹائم پہ. وہ آپ ان کو کتنے بھی لاجکس دے لے، جب تک وہ کہتے ہیں نا مطلب جب تک اپنی ول جب تک اندر سے نہیں نہ ہوتی ہے تو انسان چینج مطلب اپنے آپ کو دوسرے کو کسی کو چینج کرنا بہت مشکل ہوتا ہے. اس کے لیے میں مطلب ایز اے مدر اور ایز اے گرینڈ مدر میں یہ تھوڑا سا کہوں گی کہ اس میں جو سب سے جو ضروری چیز ہے نا وہ ایک تو دعا ہے، اللہ تعالیٰ سے دعا کرنا اور بہت زیادہ اس پہ فکر کے ساتھ اللہ سے دعا کرنا، کیونکہ وہ جو اندر ایک انسان کے وہ جو ہوتی ہے نا فکر سوچ، وہ اللہ ہی پیدا کر سکتا ہے. ہم بچوں کو بتا تو سکتے ہیں، جب بچوں کو بتاؤ تو وہ کہتے ہیں کہ آپ کو نہیں پتا، آپ کا وقت اور تھا. پھر اس میں ہماری بکس، وہ جو ابھی آپ نے بکس والی بات کی، اس میں ہمارا سارا کچھ تو اب اس میں آتا ہے، یونیورسٹیز کی بھی ساری چیزیں اس میں آتی ہیں. لیکن آپ دیکھیں کہ بسائڈ اپنے کام کے مطلب اپنی جو ان کی ضروری چیزیں ہیں اس کے ساتھ ساتھ وہ کتنا کچھ مطلب ہم اور دیکھ رہے ہوتے ہیں. پھر وہ جو گیمز کا ایک وہ جو مطلب بتایا، اور اس میں میں بڑے بڑے بچوں کو، بڑے بڑے آدمیوں کو دیکھتی ہوں کہ وہ گیمنگ میں ہیں، عورتیں وہ کس طرح انڈلج ہو جاتی ہیں اس میں. اور پھر وہ صحیح رات میں مطلب اپنی بڑی کلوز میری ایک ریلیٹیو ہے جو کہ ابو 65 ہے، لیکن وہ پوری رات گیم کھیلتی ہیں. مطلب وہ پوری رات ان کا کام یہ ہے کہ وہ صبح نماز پڑھتی ہیں لیکن پوری رات وہ گیم کھیلتی ہیں، صبح فجر پڑھ کے وہ سو جاتی ہیں. تو ان کو آپ سوچیں کہ 65 ایئرس کی عورت، تو وہ ان کو کہنے کے باوجود وہ مطلب she didn't realize مطلب میں یہ چیز جو ہے میں مطلب غلط کر رہی ہوں. تو آپ خود سوچیں کہ 13 14 15 سال کا بچہ جو کہ جس انوائرمنٹ میں آج بچے رہ رہے ہیں وہ اس میں کیسے سمجھیں گے نا اس بات کو. اس کے لیے جو سب سے ضروری چیز ہے وہ دعا ہے اور ان کے ساتھ ایک اپنا بانڈ ڈیولپ کرنا، ان کو جو ہے وہ اچھی ایکٹیویٹیز میں جو ہے مطلب ان کو لے کر جانا، ان کو سوشلائز ان لوگوں سے کروانا کہ جن کے بچے جو ہیں وہ کچھ مطلب اچھا بیٹر کر رہے ہیں. تو اس سے انشاءاللہ ان کو جو ہے وہ کافی فرق پڑے گا. اور سب سے ضروری جو چیز ہے نا، جو ہم سب سے جس کو ہم اتنا مطلب میں بھی بار بار اس پہ اسٹریس اس لیے کر رہی ہوں، یہ جو دعا ہے نا اللہ تعالیٰ سے کرنا، اس کو ہم بہت لائٹ لیتے ہیں اور ہم اپنی ٹیکنیکس پر بہت زیادہ جو ہے وہ مطلب بھروسہ اور اعتماد کرتے ہیں. وہ سب اپنی جگہ ہے، ہماری کوشش ہونی چاہیے کیونکہ اللہ نے تو ہماری کوشش دیکھنی ہے نا. آپ دیکھیں میرے گرینڈ ڈاٹرز ہیں نا، میرے بیٹے کے بچے ماشاءاللہ، جو میری گرینڈ ڈاٹر بڑی ہے وہ مطلب 6 ایئرس کی ہے ابھی تک، وہ ایک 6 کی ایک 5 کی ہونے والی، اور ایک جو چھوٹا بیٹا ہے وہ تقریباً کوئی 2.5 پونے 3 سال کا ہے. ابھی تک ہم نے ان کے ہاتھ میں کبھی بھی مطلب موبائل نہیں دیا. انہوں نے آج تک کوئی کارٹونز نہیں دیکھے، ان کو پتہ ہی نہیں ہے کہ وہ ہوتے کیا ہیں، ان کو ایون نام بھی نہیں پتا ان کارٹونز کے. صرف وجہ کیا ہے کہ وہ میں نے اور میری جو سسٹر ان لا ہے، ڈاٹر ان لا ہے، ہم نے شروع سے اس بات کو ڈیسائیڈ کر لیا تھا کہ ہم نے اپنے بچوں کو یہ نہیں دینا جب تک کہ ہم ان کو کنٹرول کر سکتے ہیں. اور یہ نہیں ہے کہ ہم نے اسے بند کر لیا اور وہ بےچارے مطلب اس پہ محروم ہو گئے ہیں، یا وہ بہت مطلب مظلوم فیل کر رہے ہیں. نہیں، وہ الحمدللہ وہ بہت خوش ہے، کیونکہ ہم ان کو لاجیکلی اس چیزیں ساتھ ساتھ سمجھاتے بھی ہیں. پھر سب سے بڑھ کر جو چیز ہے وہ دعا ہے، کہ ان کے لیے دعا کرتے رہتے ہیں کہ اللہ تعالیٰ یہ آپ بچا سکتے ہیں، ہم اس کی طاقت اور قدرت نہیں رکھتے. اور پھر ان کو اس کے ڈرا بیکس بتاتے ہیں. پھر جب وہ پوچھتے ہیں کہ آپ مطلب دیکھیں نا، جیسے میں ہوں یا مدر ہے یا فادر ہے، ان کو وہ یوز کرتے ہیں تو دیکھتے ہیں، پھر ان کو بتانا کہ یہ کیوں یوز کر رہے ہیں. پھر جب آپ بڑے ہوں گے تو آپ کو بھی یہ یوز کرنا پڑے گا، لیکن آپ کو یہ پتا ہونا چاہیے کہ مطلب اس کو آپ کس لیول تک یا کس اس تک یوز کر سکتے ہیں. تو الحمدللہ ایکٹیویٹیز میں خوش رہتے ہیں، بھاگنا دوڑنا، اوپر نیچے گھر میں جو مرضی وہ کرے. تو یہ جو ہے آپ اس چیز کو بالکل لائٹ نہ لیں. جو 13 14 15 سال کی ایج ہے نا، یہ اب بہت مطلب بڑی مشکل ایجز ہے یہ. اس لیے میں سب بیٹیوں سے یہی مطلب کہوں گی کہ آپ اللہ تعالیٰ کے ساتھ اس چیز کو بہت مطلب آپ جڑ جائیں اللہ کے ساتھ، اور اس کو اللہ سے مانگے، اور انشاءاللہ اور اس پہ پریشان نہ ہو. انشاءاللہ جب آپ اس چیز کو کریں گے تو آپ خود دیکھیں گے کہ وہ بائی دا ٹائم وہ خود اس چیز کو ریئلائز کریں گے. لیکن یہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ ان کو چھوڑ دیں، وہ جو مرضی کرتے رہے. ان کو ساتھ بہت پیارے طریقے سے گائیڈ کرتے رہیں کہ بیٹا یہ چیز ایسے کرنی ہے، ایسے یہ آپ کے لیے بہتر ہے یا آپ کے لیے بہتر نہیں ہے. تو اس سے انشاءاللہ فرق ضرور پڑتا ہے. اب میرے بچے، میری جو چھوٹی بیٹی ہے، شی از سو ینگ، اس کی بہت ینگ ایج میں شادی ہوئی ہے. اب اس کی اپنی ماشاءاللہ بیٹی ہے، لیکن وہ اس کے لیے نہیں چاہتی. وہ خود حالانکہ بہت یوز کرتی تھی، اور میں اس کو منع کرتی تھی تو وہ کہتی تھی کیا ہوتا ہے اماں، کچھ نہیں ہوتا. تو لیکن اب جب اس کی اپنی بیٹی ہوئی ہے تو مطلب میری جو بیٹی جس کی سب سے چھوٹی، وہ 16 ایئرس کی ہے، اس کی شادی ہوئی ہے، اور اب اس کی اپنی 6 months کی بیٹی ہے. تو وہ اس کو میں نے دیکھا تو وہ اس کو نہیں دکھاتی، وہ کہتی نہیں اس کو نہیں دینی اسکرین. مطلب اب آپ دیکھیں وہ جو بات میں اس کو بتاتی تھی اب وہ اپنی بیٹی پر اپلائی کرتی. تو الحمدللہ اس کا مطلب ہے کہ اس کو اس کی جو اس کے مطلب کانسیکوینسز ہیں یا جو اس کی بیڈ چیز ہے اس کو پتا ہے. تو آپ بھی اس چیز پر انشاءاللہ پریشان ہوں، لیکن اللہ تعالیٰ سے اس کے لیے دعا کریں. بس میں یہی سب کو کہنا چاہوں گی.
جزاک اللہ خیر سسٹر سعدیہ. لائٹس آپ ایفرٹ اینڈ بچوں کو نا محنت اسٹرائیونگ میں خوشی اپریشیٹ کریں. دیٹ از دا بیسٹ وے. اس کا ڈوپامین از ہیلتھی ڈوپامین انشاءاللہ. جزاک اللہ خیر سعدیہ. Alright, any other questions or any comments? جزاک اللہ سسٹر کلثوم. SubhanAllah, I think it can be this, dua of course. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala سے دعا کریں and then form groups of parents and plan what we can do together for the healthy dopamine. Please, before closing, find your truth. Our workshop is going to be open again for June, and it's going to be about building relationships, which is very, very important to be able to do this with your kids, especially the elder kids. And we need to have solid relationship with the kids. So, آپ لوگ پلیز اس کو please join that FIT course as well, and learn to strengthen your relationship with your kids. So that will be helpful as well. Okay. Anything else?
I think
Inshallah.
that's about it, Sister Farhana.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, any queries, any questions anybody has on joining the workshop, any help they need on the training, they can reach out to us in the group.
Yeah. And inshallah, I will send some, books as well as some, videos which you can watch, because there was a lot of content which I just threw out in the session. But a couple of times if you hear, you can use information for benefit, inshallah. So we'll go ahead and close. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus solihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for such an amazing session. Jazakallah khair. Kaseera.